Good afternoon. Hello. So, thanks. First, I would like to thank the Odoo Community Association and all the sponsors to organize and support this event that gives us the opportunity to share our products, to share good practices, and to network. So, big thank you to all of you. This afternoon we will talk about carbon accounting. So it's not cash anymore, but it's carbon accounting with a new currency, kilograms of carbon, not dollars, Swiss francs, or euros. I will introduce some climate concepts quickly because I guess now everyone is aware about planet boundaries, climate change, and carbon footprint. Then we will talk about the problems that we encountered of why we started this project, and then take time to show you some of the screens and a live demo of what we did in Odoo. In terms of planet boundaries and climate change, first I wanted to share this slide that is showing the Stockholm Resilience Center illustration that gives us an idea of the processes that regulate the state of the Earth system, with some of the most important ones around ocean acidification, around biodiversity, of course, but also CO2 emissions and climate change. There are huge impacts related to these problems that we can see there. Economic impacts that may be less important, I don't know, but health impacts. Today, we estimate that 60% of the mortality in the world is due to pollution, for instance, and also social impacts, such as the climate refugees who need to leave their country just to survive. And today, sorry, it's a bit tough at the end of the day, but then there is a good message at the end. Don't worry. Exactly. So we will focus on CO2, just to highlight the natural greenhouse effect at the left. That is the reason why we are living in this planet. And on the right, all of the human activities impacts that are causing the additional warming on the planet, such as burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and all this stuff. And this climate warming leads to the environmental changes that we now see on a regular basis, such as the rising sea levels, higher temperatures, and extreme weather events. We will dig into the carbon footprint and the way to compute and to measure it. So first, why should we measure this carbon footprint? How would you improve what you cannot measure? That's the first good reason to try to measure it, because there are many action plans, and sometimes people don't even have a benchmark on where they start. So of course, the first thing you want to do is to know where you are starting from. But it also helps you to quantify and identify where you should focus in order to reduce your carbon footprint. Is this because of transportation? Is this because of your production? Is this because of energy consumption? This is one of the objectives of the carbon footprint measurement. But carbon footprint measurement is also a way for the organizations to meet stakeholders' requirements, to meet investors' expectations, and also to help the new employees being a bit more proud to come and work in such companies. And the last reason why is that because it will very soon come an obligation, so you will not have a choice anymore. So you see here that beginning of 25, For all the companies that are greater than 500 FTEs, it will become an obligation. Then the year after, it's for 250 FTEs, and beginning of 2017, it's for the companies who have more than 50 FTEs, more or less a lot of companies. How do we measure a carbon footprint? So this is now, I think, 20 years since people tried to make it as smooth as possible. So there is a notion of scope, and it has been divided into 3 scopes, measuring the direct emissions, the scope number 2 that is linked to the indirect emissions directly related to energy, and the third scope coming from upstream activities or downstream activities that is linked to these indirect emissions. The process is divided in several steps. First, and that's the most painful part, you need to collect the data. Then you need to measure and to compute the emissions. And in the end, this is the reporting that you need to provide. Measuring is one thing, but the objective is to reduce. So how do we reduce with this methodology? The action plan is an important part of a carbon reporting. So now you know where to start. You need to plan for the future. You need also to inform and to educate your employees in order for them to become aware of what are the challenges and in order to embed them into this journey that will involve the entire organization, actually. The action plan will define a trajectory that you will try to follow, and this tool that we have implemented will help organizations to monitor their carbon footprint and monitor their carbon budget for the next year in order to make sure that the action plan that has been designed is actually effective and makes 100% sense. Instead of, like it is today, people coming every year in order to perform the carbon reporting, and they leave, they come back the year after, maybe what has been planned doesn't work, but it's too late. So now we stop looking backwards, and we try to monitor real time what is happening in the organization. I've already started talking about the problems. This is very expensive for an organization to create a full carbon reporting, including all of the measurement down to the action plan. The main reason being the data collection. It's a real pain. Let me show you one of the files that people are using usually. So you see how many tabs that you have at the bottom. So there are like 20 tabs or something like this. Each tab is worth something like 1,000 records. So it's just a real pain. And they suffer from that when you talk about this with them, with the ones who are doing the job. And every year when you come back, you are back to trying to gather the data of the new year, right? So it's every time you start from scratch. Plus, in terms of reporting, there's a real lack of transparency that makes all of us skeptical. When we see a carbon report, the first thing we say is, where did I get greenwashed, actually? This is the way I read them, actually. Maybe not you, but... So here the plan is also to give all the transparency that is needed in such an important topic, and to disclose the code and to make it open source so that you can look at what is happening behind the scene and change it if needed. Plus, also expose all of the emission factors that have been used in order to compute this carbon reporting in open data, ideally. Sometimes it's licensed, but most of the time you can also use open data emission factors. So what we have created is a tool on top of Odoo, of course, with the idea to inject all of this carbon concern in all the modules as much as we can and integrate all of this within the accounting module. That is the plan. And you will see the benefits of the integration later on. The idea also is to provide a tool that is compliant with all the international recognized protocols, such as the GHG protocol in Europe and around the world, but also some French protocols that are widely used also outside the country. And the report that the environment consultant will provide will be compliant with what is requested by these organizations. The tool itself is not yet certified, but that's one of the plans in 24. As I said, the tool is open source, and we'll try to use as much as we can and to provide as much as we can all of the emission factors using open data. And the ambition is also to build a strong community, because here, in this concern, in this topic, we are not talking about competition, about competitors, but we would rather talk about co-opetition and try to cooperate in order to decarbonize the society, in order to share best practices of what did work for a company that could work for another one, and try to share all of these type of good practices to address the challenges of climate change. This is the market today in terms of competitors. So there's a lot of startups at the bottom right with super nice glossy tools where you can slice and dice, drill down, roll up, whatever you want to do you can. But still, the problem is to get the data and to grab the data. So you don't have your big spreadsheet anymore, but you still need to get the data. Bottom left, you see all the other ERPs. None of them have a solution today. There's no ERP in the world that is providing a carbon report, an integrated carbon reporting. And what we did on top of Odoo is still a bit on the left, as you can see, because it's not that glossy, as you will see later on, but it's fully integrated within the ERP, and you will see all the benefits. You remember this picture? This is how to compute your carbon reporting. Here, at the beginning, we have, it's not big enough, the company vehicles that is covered by the fleet application. Then we have the company facilities where we will be able to integrate all of the bill of materials and understand piece by piece, component by component, what is the carbon footprint of its component, and then sum it up and get the data from there. The purchase application will help us cover all of these topics. Asset management will be useful for all your capital goods. Inventory management for all the transportation and the distribution. Expenses, easy, for the business travels. Employee commuting is something that is usually not in your accounting, so we did rely on HR module in order to integrate this. The rental application for all of the leases. Again, inventory downstream for the deliveries. Here are the sales. For the sold products, we will be able to display the carbon footprint when you deliver an invoice to your customers. Again, the rental application here to cover the lease assets. For all the franchises, the consolidation will be helpful. And here you get all the assets. All of this fall down in the accounting application, and everything is centralized there. the additional application that are additional modules such as the survey in order to get the data from your employee will be super useful. We will be able to use the e-learning module in order to embed and to involve all of your employees and to train them on what are the impacts of climate change and why do we need to go there. You will be able also to share on the knowledge application a lot of information, publish your carbon reporting on the website, explain your customers using email marketing why you did this and why they need to do this too, or your suppliers. And also using the dashboard, you will be able to monitor these day-to-day carbon footprints. Let's move on to Odoo. Everyone sleeps, so we can wake up. Not yet, good. So, first, in order to compute a carbon footprint, you need to get emission factors. This is what you will take and multiply against your activity data or against your euros in order to compute line by line at the lowest level the kilogram of carbon that you are generating. So, not be super easy, but so these are the emission factors. Is it better? Good. So when you pick one of them, so you can say if it's a physical or monetary, because sometimes you need to estimate, you don't exactly know what is the physical emission factor. You need to know the uncertainty, and then you need basically to give the information of, in this case, for each kilometer, you will get 0.152 kilogram of carbon. You can manage the vintages, saying, for instance, now in 21, it's not this anymore, but it has moved to 153 per kilometer. So that is where you would define your emission factors with the ability to switch and to get all the Kyoto emission gases that need to be reported. Sometimes you don't want to see these details, but that's something that is mandatory from a regulatory perspective. So you can import whatever you want, coming from wherever you want. We will provide the first set coming from this open database. But if there are some licensed ones, you can import them and use them, of course. There are no restrictions. In terms of the core engine itself, in order to compute for each invoice, you need to go to the most precise information, of course. Most precise being, for instance, at OpenNet, every time we sell 1 hour of consulting, we give you 2.5 kilograms of carbon. So you don't have to try to compute to find an emission factor or whatever. You know what is your carbon footprint. So that's the most precise. And then, rolling up, either you have the information from your bill of material, from your products, from your product category, from your suppliers, and if you don't have anything, you move back to the monetary emission factors directly from the chart of account. On each account, you have the ability to set up an emission factor. Worst case scenario, you pick the one at company level that is super generic, but if you don't have anything more accurate, that's what you can do. Unit of measurements and currency conversions are, of course, managed, and you benefit from the integration of Odoo, so you can pay your bills in megawatt hours, and maybe you have an emission factors in kilowatt hours, euro versus Swiss francs or versus dollars. All of this is managed. Plus the concept of uncertainty, that is very important in carbon reporting. That gives you how accurate is your carbon reporting in the end. So that's something a bit tricky to compute, but it has been implemented. So here I will show you, for instance, at product level. On, say, electricity. So for each product, for instance, you here have the ability to define for the purchases and for the sales how you want your carbon reporting to be computed. This is at product level. You have the same at contact level, at partner level, sorry, at company level, and so on and so forth, at all the levels that I did mention before. In terms of accounting, so we did use very similar concept as the one that we have in Odoo, of course. You have the ability to lock a given year or a given time when you have finished your accounting and the auditors have certified your accounting. Same here. You say, okay, 2022, the carbon reporting is done. The auditors did certify this carbon report. So we lock the date and nothing can move anymore. You can change whatever you want. This will not change anymore. And that's super important, of course. Similarly, we did use some other features such as asset management, deferred revenues and expenses that are generating the carbon the way you generate the money, so to say. We did stick to these financial models that are used in Odoo. And the integration is really at the lowest level, so it's really down to the invoice line that we are computing this carbon footprint. That gives us a lot of opportunities in terms of reporting, in terms of budget management, and so on and so forth, without doing a lot, actually. Thinking. A lot of thinking and design, but you will see one of the side benefits right after. Let me show you in terms of settings. This is how it looks like. So here you can define a default fallback. You can define your lock date. For the employee commuting that I'll show you later on, you define what are your emission factors, in which journal you want to generate your entries, because these are accounting entries with zero impact from a financial perspective, but from a carbon perspective, we need to generate in order to stick to this concept of everything is in accounting. And the account where you want to generate them, you have some additional features in terms to add some information on your documents. And this is where basically you define some of the settings of the module. Let me create an invoice. We will say that we have purchased electricity. You remember, just before we did set up this product, at let's say that we did consume 328 kilowatt hours. So there is a given price, and we would add a line for the subscription. Sometimes it's even more expensive to subscribe, but for 30 francs. So here you see that the carbon related to the product itself, using the precedence order, it has used the product information. You have here, you know what has been used in order to compute this number, is 59. And here it has basically taken, I guess, the default at company level in order to compute this one. So that's how you have a price and you have a carbon impact on every single invoice that you are generating from now on. You show the journal items generated for maybe later. Okay. In terms of purchases, so let me show you another application. So The idea is to integrate the entire value chain, and it transfers the carbon data from the purchase application to the accounting application. Why is this important? It's not only a technical project, it's also an organizational project. As I was saying before, all the organization has to be involved in this type of project, and here the purchase department is clearly the one who knows the best what is the carbon footprint of the products that they are purchasing. So that's why it's also important from an educational perspective and in order to involve the entire company. So here we will simulate a purchase order. Let's say that we buy a flip chart. Flip over. Okay. And no, by 1 unit. And I know from the supplier that actually this is worth 74 kilo of carbon, right? It's a bit heavy, but that's it. So I don't let the tool trying to compute it, but I define it at this stage, right? Then I confirm. Let me do this quickly. And I create the invoice. Here what you see is that the data is locked, so whatever the rest of the setup, the purchase guy said it is worth 74, that's it, nothing else. You confirm. Try to confirm. And let me just change something. You confirm you still have your 74 kilos of carbon. The asset has been generated because this is the way it is configured. We want to depreciate this asset across time. So now you confirm, so you generate all of your lines from an accounting perspective. You confirm your asset, and all of this will also carry the carbon, the CO2, with all the money that is behind, with the same computation in terms of pro rata or whatever the way you have defined your asset configuration. Everything will follow, and you will get the right carbon amortization. This is the way it is done usually in this type of companies, despite you may think that the carbon is already in the air, which is correct, but your money is also already in the air, right, when you invest on an asset. So that's the way it is sometimes defined. HR, this is extra accounting, but they want you to give the information about how your employees are coming and are commuting for their day-to-day work. So we have added all of this information needed for this computation, and every month we are generating the accounting entries in a specific journal, as I've shown before, in order to reflect the CO2 footprint month by month. So that's how it looks like. Oops. Anita, there is a new tab here about commuting. And she comes by bike, and she is 57, the distance between. So every week she performs 57 kilometers by bike, and so on and so forth for all the employees. Some of them have the information, some of us didn't fill the information, but the module needs to keep track of all of them, and so it generates a kind of an average for the ones that are missing. With this uncertainty that I did talk before, it gives you a good way to know if it's accurate enough or if you need to go back to your employees in order to get more information. I will move on. expenses. When your employees are traveling by plane, train, car, again, they are the best in order to know what they did and they have information. It again allows you to involve them and to make them aware of how important it is. And instead of having an accountant who doesn't really know what was the trip for, where did they go really, because sometimes you don't have all the information, up to the employee to fill in this information. And that will help us tracking all these employee travel emissions. This one is a funny one because we did realize actually yesterday that I could present it today because it works out of the box. Expenses are linked to products. Products are linked to emission factors. So you basically have to fill in your expense report and everything gets computed automatically, seamlessly. Nothing else to do. The positive side effect that we like. Usually side effects are negative, so here we have a positive side effect. Well, that's a good one. Of course, it's not enough. We need to add some other information, but if you look at it, first, in your products, you define, if I take the mileage. So here we said it is 75 francs per kilometer. We did associate it into cars for medium-sized engine in Switzerland, so that's a specific emission factors. In your expenses, this mileage is defined this way. You just have to create your expense report. That's a new client. It is a mileage. It was worth 53 kilometers. You save, create, submit, approve, post, done. This is your footprint for this specific expense. As simple as this. Again, that's the result also of all the design that we were talking before. Sometimes you can spend a lot of time trying to code and to do things outside of where it should be. Here, it took us a lot of time to think about how to do it as integrated as possible as the accounting module, and that's one of the side effects we were really happy to discover yesterday, and maybe there will be others coming. Next one is about reporting. I will not spend a lot of time. So we did use the MIS reports that are available on the community thanks to Axon and the OCA. So that gives us the ability to, similarly as you look at the P&L report in accounting, to look at your, as an over currency, look at your carbon reporting. So that's something that is pretty nice. It looks like this. Same. So you have your P&L report and you know what is the bottom line and what you will have to report on your balance sheet for the next year, because either you're long or short carbon, depending on how you did estimate your sales and your purchases. But in the end, very similar to accounting. I will skip the part with the over reports. It's not that interesting in order to keep a bit of time for the questions. Let's move on to the applications. The first one that we have released is called MyCity CO2. It is a tool that is estimating the carbon footprint of the cities in the world. We started with France. And we have released the tool with something like 35,000 cities in France. We relied on the government open data that is publishing the accounts since 2010. It is broken down into 750 accounts for each city. And basically, we have created Odoos with 35,000 companies We have imported the chart of accounts. We have imported the balances for each account. We did set up emission factors in front of them, and we did compute everything. And this is the result in terms of UI. And next objective is to do something similar in Switzerland, despite it's less centralized, let's say, in Switzerland, so you don't have a single place where you get all the data. So it's a bit more painful. We will have to go canton by canton. But the plan is to integrate more and more countries. This is how it looks like. Basically, you take a city, let's say Poitiers, you click on it, you get your report. So you know what is the population, you know what is the carbon footprint per citizen, of course, because the net is not that interesting, so you need to get by citizen. Here, you know what is the trend versus what has been agreed by the Paris Agreement. So in France, we say we want to reduce by something like 3.25%, something like this, per year. That's the Stratégie Nationale Bas Carbone. So you see where you stand versus what is the target trajectory. Here you have the dispatch between what is invested and what is the day-to-day expenses, and the dispatch by category. Another application is related to the organizations we are working on or we are working for as partners. And we are very proud to say that by the end of November, we will be able to release the first ever corporate carbon report that is fully compliant with the GHG protocol. That is all managed within an ERP, because usually everything is done in Excel or in outside tools. Here, it will be the first one built on top of an ERP. And we are also ready to deploy the module for other clients, other partners, let's say beginning of 24. Carbon footprint is obviously critical for sustainability in order to live into a better world, let's say. Open source and this transparency is key, specifically in this topic for carbon reporting. And our objective is really to try to make it as affordable as possible. Forget about these guys who need to come and spend weeks in order to gather the data, in order to massify and to make it popular, to build these carbon reports so that people can start acting and planning rather than trying just to count, basically, and to measure. It applies to any organization, can be public organizations such as cities or governments, whatever, and of course, to private. Now, how can you help? My city CO2, you're welcome. Wherever you live, whatever your profile is, technical or functional, if you want to deploy it in your country, we would be very happy to help and support the approach, because the more there will be, the more people we will have being concerned and informed about this problem, and put pressure also on the government, so that would be something super nice. In terms of carbon footprint computation in organizations, first we want to propose that if in your organization you are interested to compute your carbon reporting, we would be happy to help you and to support you into installing the module, configuring it, and being able to provide a certified carbon reporting using the GHG protocol or some French protocols. So we are happy to help you guys in the room, not the ones looking, because it would be too many. But the ones in the room, if your organization is interested, it would be a pleasure to help you. And no money, just exchange of time, let's say. So if we spend 2 days, you may spend 2 days in documenting, translating in your language, for instance. Whatever kind of contribution, no money, just time to exchange between us. If you're interested, let me know. And hopefully we'll be able to build the carbon reporting of the OCA maybe for next year. So we'll see, and to measure what is the event footprint. Maybe we'll be able to capitalize on the Odoo experience. People don't only come for this one, but also for one of the rest of the week. So we will see how we can share the carbon between the two events. So anyway, it would be a pleasure to help and to support the initiative. Thanks a lot for your attention, and up to you for the questions. Sorry, say that again.
Did you ask to create a new repository to the OCA to this project?
It's not yet in the OCA. We have shy developers at OpenNet. They say maybe it's not good enough yet. Let's work a bit more again, and then we will see if we put it in the OCA. So. It is open. It's open. It's on GitHub, but not on the OCA, if I'm not wrong, Julien. Okay. But the question was about the OCA. It's not yet on the OCA, but it will come hopefully soon.
How hard it is to get this certified? What is the gap for the system or for this process to be certified?
For the process to be certified, you need an environmental consultant to use the tool and to provide the reporting, and you get your reporting certified. That's one thing. To certify the tool itself that we have created, it's a bit more complicated because there's a lot around it. It's not only computing, but it's also all the e-learning platform where we need to create some content in order to inform the employees, to make them come and validate a quiz or things like this. So it's more content-oriented rather than computation-oriented. So that will take a bit of time. I'm not sure we'll be able to reach for 24, but we will start in 24. Yeah.
When you do certified, then the company don't need any certification, or is the company's certification also needed?
Yeah, the question is about the distinction between the tool being certified and what it generates. So it is not because the tool is certified that you don't need someone to come and certify the result of what the tool has provided. It's just that it's a sample that gives you a bit more credibility that you are covering the entire chain of what a carbon reporting is, from the education at the beginning, through measurement, down to the action plan. And you need also for the action plan, for instance, some metrics in order to say, okay, we have taken this and that action, what is actually generating in terms of carbon savings, and monitor all of this. So it will take a bit of time. Yeah.
I know that companies often have like offset goals, like carbon offset goals. Is the tool built out for offset reporting as well?
Yeah, the question is about carbon offsetting. So it is one of my, in one of my slides I'm talking about carbon offsets. That's not the topic I like the most, because I think we must and we should first reduce, because we can still reduce. But yes, we can also offset. In terms of accounting, it's just that it will be an opposite, and it will generate you the offset that is associated to it. Exactly. Yes. Yep.
So what you saw, I think it was communication. So you also talked about the module in front of charge.
Yeah, the question was about community versus enterprise edition. So I would say 95% of what I've shown in the slide are community edition oriented. The demo is 100% community edition oriented. I think there are still some items that are only available on the enterprise edition. It's not a lot, but there are some of them. I don't remember. But there is one or two in my slide that is enterprise oriented. Yes, knowledge is one of them. Yeah, for instance.
That's also there on internal accounting or both in OCA and
exactly. And the one in the community is the one from the OCA for the asset management. Yeah. Yeah.
Who financed this work? Did you get the subvention from the government, or is it you? I think you will get better.
So it has started in 21. Jacques André, the founder of OpenNet, did this carbon report for the company. And actually, every time you need to ask a question, he was going back to accounting. And he said, actually, this is carbon accounting. Why don't we do it in accounting, basically? So that is when it has started. And he met a physician saying, everything that is coming in needs to come out. So they just met each other and say, let's start something and let's build something in Odoo. Everything is financed by OpenNet at the moment. Nothing. The only one who has purchased it is OpenNet for its carbon reporting. So basically nobody at this stage. And no, there is nothing that has been financed so far. Yeah.
Could you, since the collection of data is the major point for yourself, how did you get with the data from your providers?
The question is around the data collection and how do we get it from our providers. It's simple. We are only 15 at OpenNet. We are a service company, so we didn't fight too much. Some providers did answer, some of us didn't. And in this case, the carbon consultant is basically taking some hypothesis, saying, okay, for this one, we will assume that it's like this and like that, because we don't have the information from the supplier, so you cannot guess it, right? The good thing about this is that the more companies will do that, the more emails they will receive, the more requests they will receive, and then they will start saying, okay, actually, I need maybe to get this information from somewhere in order to provide it. So that's.
So now you are giving to your clients the
yes,
information?
yes. 2.5 kilograms per hour.
I'm sorry, we need to close the room.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.